I ran away after my brother did the unthinkable. Years later, I exposed him and everything broke. I cut off my entire family because my brother is a rapist. Now they want me back for a reason that terrifies me. I didn't leave home because I wanted freedom. I left because staying would have destroyed me. And even now, years later, I still wake up some nights wondering if I made the right choice, or if I abandoned people who, despite everything, were still my family. But then I remember what happened in that house. And the guilt turns into something else. Something colder. Something clearer. I'm 24 now, but this story really starts when I was 12. That was the first time my brother came into my room at night. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't have the words for it. All I knew was that something felt wrong, and that I was scared to tell anyone. He was 10 years older than me. He was supposed to protect me. Instead, he made me feel like I didn't even belong in my own body. It didn't happen just once. It didn't stop. It went on for years. From 12, to 13, to 14, all the way until I was 16. And the worst part, he acted normal the next day. Like nothing ever happened. Like I was just his little sister again. I tried to make it stop. I begged him. I cried. One time, I even showed him a Bible verse, something about incest being wrong. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I reminded him of what he believed in, he would stop. He didn't. He just looked at me and said, "Who told you that?" Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "This is wrong." Just fear that someone else might find out. That was the moment something inside me broke. Because I realized, he knew exactly what he was doing. For years, I stayed silent. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't think anyone would believe me. My parents were pastors. We had a church, a reputation, a community that saw us as this perfect, God-fearing family. I didn't want to destroy that. I didn't want to destroy them. But eventually, I couldn't hold it in anymore. When I was 17, everything came out. And for a brief moment, I thought I was finally going to be safe. I was wrong. My brother admitted it, on his knees, in front of my parents. He confessed to everything. Years of it. There was no doubt, no confusion. No, he said, she said. It was the truth, right there, in the open. And still, they chose him. They didn't call the police. They didn't kick him out permanently. They didn't protect me. Instead, they told me something I will never forget. Don't tell anyone. They said the church would be destroyed. My dad's reputation would be ruined. Our family would fall apart. They said I needed to forgive him. That God would handle the rest. And for a while, I tried. I stayed. I lived in that house. With him. With the person who destroyed my childhood. Do you know what that does to someone? To wake up every day knowing your safety doesn't matter. That your pain is less important than appearances. I started falling apart. I had been a straight A student. A 4.1 GPA. I had dreams, plans, a future, and then suddenly, I couldn't even get out of bed. I stopped going to class. Stopped answering messages. Stopped caring about anything. I went from thriving, to barely surviving. And the worst part, no one stepped in. No one said, "This isn't okay." Eventually, my dad made a promise. He said my brother would never live in the house again. For a moment, I believed him. A year later, they moved him back in. That was it. That was the moment I knew. If I stayed, I wouldn't make it out alive. So I left. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big confrontation. No screaming. No final goodbye. Just a suitcase, a few important documents, and a plane ticket. My boyfriend helped me. Without him, I don't think I would have had the courage. We flew across the country. Away from everything I had ever known. Before I left, I sent them a message, a long one, explaining everything. Why I was leaving. Why I couldn't stay. Why I was done pretending. And then, I blocked them. For the first time in years. I felt safe. But safety comes with a cost. Because no matter how bad things were, they were still my parents. And 8 months later, the guilt started creeping in. I found my mom's emails in my spam folder. She said she cried every night. That I was her only daughter. That she missed me. That she wanted me to come home. And it hurt, more than I expected, because she wasn't always a bad mother. She raised me. She sacrificed for me. She loved me, in her own way. And now I was the one causing her pain. That thought, it ate at me. Was I selfish? Was I cruel? Was I overreacting? But then I'd remember, she let him stay. She chose silence. She chose him. And I'd remind myself, I didn't leave to hurt them. I left to survive. Still, that doesn't make it easy. Because when your own family fails you, you don't just lose them. You lose the version of life you thought you had. And sometimes, that loss feels just as painful as everything else. But what I didn't know at the time was that leaving was only the beginning, because 2 years later, they would find me again. And this time, they wouldn't just want forgiveness. They would want something else. Something that would force me to question everything all over again. And this time, walking away wouldn't feel so simple. I thought leaving was the hardest part. I thought once I was gone, that was it. No more fear. No more looking over my shoulder. No more wondering if I'd run into him in my own home. And for a while, that was true. Life wasn't perfect. I was barely making money, working a job that paid just above minimum wage, trying to rebuild something that had been completely shattered. But I had something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. No one was forcing me to forgive. No one was pretending nothing happened. No one was choosing him over me. Every single day. And then, a few days before Christmas, everything changed. There was a knock on the door. It was a normal day. Nothing felt different. No warning. No sign that my past was about to walk right up to me. My boyfriend opened the door, and I heard his voice change. Just slightly. Enough for my stomach to drop. "Ah, someone's here to see you." I walked over, and the second I saw her, my entire body froze. It was my mom, standing right there, on the doorstep, across the country. I hadn't seen her in over a year. Not since I left. Not since I cut everything off. And now she was here. Like no distance, no silence, no boundaries, had ever existed. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. My brain was trying to catch up, trying to understand how she found me, why she was here, what this meant. And underneath all of that, there was something else. Hope. A tiny, dangerous part of me thought, maybe things are different now. Maybe she came all this way because she finally understood. Maybe she was ready to admit everything. Maybe she chose me this time. So I stepped outside. We sat down on the front lawn, like two strangers trying to pretend we weren't carrying years of pain between us. She looked at me like she hadn't seen me in forever, like she was trying to memorize my face. She asked me if I was okay, told me how happy she was to see me, said she'd been crying every night. And then, she apologized, but not in the way I needed. She said she was sorry for things she didn't know, things done out of ignorance. I remember sitting there, listening to her, and feeling something shift inside me, because those weren't the words of someone who understood. Those were the words of someone trying to soften what happened, trying to avoid saying the truth out loud. She never said his name. Not once. She never said what he did. Never said, rape. Never said, I failed you. Just vague apologies, carefully chosen words. And I realized, this wasn't closure. This was control. Then she asked if I wanted to talk to my disabled brother. And that broke me, because I missed him so much. More than anyone, he was innocent in all of this. He didn't choose any of it. And leaving him behind was the one thing that still hurt every single day. So I said yes. She called my dad, put him on speaker, and the moment I heard his voice, I felt like I was 17 again. He sounded emotional, said he could finally sleep now that he knew I was okay. Repeated the same lines my mom had said, almost like they had rehearsed it. And then he said something that snapped everything into place. Find it in your heart to forgive us, just as we have. He stopped mid-sentence, but it didn't matter, because my brain finished it for him. Just as we have forgiven you. And I remember thinking, for what? What did I do? I was the one who was hurt. I was the one who had to run away. I was the one who lost everything. And somehow, in his mind, I was the one who needed forgiveness. That was the moment everything became clear again. Nothing had changed. Not really. My mom must have seen it on my face. Because she quickly ended the call. Then she asked me to go out to eat. I agreed, but I brought my boyfriend with me. Not just for support, but because a small part of me didn't trust her. We went to a restaurant, sat down, ordered food, and the silence was unbearable. It felt like we were sitting on top of a bomb. No one said what actually needed to be said. No one addressed the truth. We just ate until my boyfriend got up to go to the bathroom. And the moment he left, everything changed. My mom leaned forward and started asking questions, not about my feelings, not about my trauma, not about what I went through, but about my life, where I worked, what I was doing, if I was going back to college. Then she asked something that made my chest tighten. Are you thinking about coming back home? I didn't hesitate. No, I told her I wasn't leaving with her. Not under any circumstances. And something in her expression shifted, just slightly, like that wasn't the answer she expected. Or maybe, not the answer she wanted. And that's when I noticed something else. In all the time she had been there, she never once asked if I was okay. Not really. She didn't ask if I had money, if I had food, if I had a safe place to sleep. She didn't ask how I survived after leaving. And I realized, she didn't come to understand me. She came to bring me back. By the time we left the restaurant, I already knew something wasn't right. It wasn't just what my mom said. It was everything she didn't say. The silence around it, the way she avoided it, the way she carefully walked around the truth like it didn't exist. But I still hadn't fully accepted it yet. A part of me was still hoping. Maybe she just needs more time. We got into the car. The drive back felt even longer than the dinner. And then, she asked for my phone number. It seemed like a normal question. Simple, harmless, but nothing about this situation was simple. I told her I didn't have the same number anymore. That I was using a Google Voice number. And that's when things got weird. She looked confused, genuinely confused. She said, "But your dad is still paying for your phone." I paused, because no, he wasn't. That phone had been shut off months ago, right after I left, and suddenly, I felt something cold settle in my chest. Because that meant one of two things. Either my dad had been lying to her, or they had both been lying to me. She immediately called him, put him on speaker again, and asked about the phone. There was a pause, a long one, then he started talking, and for the first time since I'd heard his voice that day. He sounded unsure, he stuttered, said he was still paying for it, that he didn't know what happened, that maybe there was some kind of issue. It didn't make sense, and he knew it didn't make sense. My mom started pressing him, saying he needed to figure it out, that something wasn't right, and then suddenly, his tone changed, sharp, dismissive. "Don't worry about that right now." Just like that, conversation over, and then, he pivoted, started talking to me again. Not asking, not checking in, lecturing, about college, about my future, about what I should be doing with my life. Like nothing had ever happened. Like I hadn't run away for a reason. Like I was just some rebellious kid who needed guidance. And then he said something that made my stomach twist. "Whatever people have been saying about us, it's not true. People, not me, not what I went through. Just people, like the entire situation was just rumors, gossip, misunderstandings." And then, almost casually, he added, "Well, you said you don't believe in God anymore, but anyway." And just like that, there it was, the judgment, the quiet implication that I was the one who had lost my way. That I had changed, that I was the problem. Not the man who raped his sister. Not the parents who protected him. Me. I didn't respond, because there was nothing left to say. Nothing that would make him understand. Nothing that would make him admit the truth. After the call ended, the car felt suffocating, like all the air had been sucked out of it. We drove in silence, and for the first time since she showed up, I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't hopeful. I wasn't torn between guilt and anger. I was clear, painfully clear. Nothing had changed. Not really. They hadn't come to take responsibility. They hadn't come to make things right. They came to pull me back into the same cycle. Different words, different approach, but the same outcome. Pretend it didn't happen. Forgive. Come home. When we got back to the house, I thought it was over. I thought she would leave. But she turned to me and asked something that made my chest tighten again. "Do you want to come stay with me tonight?" At her hotel, she said she missed me. That she just wanted to spend time together. And for a split second, I felt that pull again. That longing for a normal relationship. For a mother who just loved me. But then I remembered everything. The basement, the silence, the lies, and I said no. Again, she didn't push, but I could see it. The disappointment, the frustration, like things weren't going the way she expected. She dropped us off, and just like that, she was gone. No big ending, no resolution, just silence. A few days later, I got a Christmas card in the mail. Inside was a $50 gift card, and I remember staring at it for a long time, because it felt so small. Not the money, but what it represented. After everything, after years of pain, after everything I lost, this is what they offered. A vague apology, a visit that avoided the truth. And $50. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but one thing was certain. The guilt I had been carrying for months started to fade, because for the first time, I saw everything clearly. They weren't trying to fix what they broke. They were trying to erase it. And I realized something that night. I didn't leave my family. They lost me, the moment they chose him. For a long time after my mom left, I stayed quiet. I didn't reach out, didn't respond, didn't go looking for them. I told myself I was done. That I had said everything I needed to say by leaving, and for a while, that worked. I focused on my life, on surviving, on rebuilding, on figuring out who I was. Without them, it wasn't easy. There were days I felt strong, days where I felt like I had finally taken control of my life. And then there were nights where everything came crashing back. Memories, voices, the feeling of being trapped, and the guilt never fully went away, but I learned how to live with it. Or at least, I thought I did, until one day, I made a mistake. I logged into Facebook. I hadn't checked it in months. Maybe longer. I don't even know why I did it. Curiosity, maybe, weakness, or maybe, some part of me still wanted to see if anything had changed. It hadn't. The first thing I saw was him, my brother, posting like nothing had ever happened. Smiling, celebrating, talking about politics, about winning, about being right, and something inside me snapped, because there he was, living his life, free, unbothered, while I was still dealing with everything he did to me. And the worst part, no one in the comments knew. They were laughing with him, agreeing with him, supporting him, like he wasn't a monster, like he hadn't destroyed someone's life, my life, and I just couldn't take it anymore. All those years of silence, all those swallowed words, all that pain I kept locked inside. It came rushing out all at once. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just posted. At first, it wasn't direct, just a comment, a jab, something that hinted at the truth. But even that felt like too much for him. Because within minutes, he blocked me, and that made it worse, because it was the same pattern. Silence me, hide it, pretend it never happened, just like before, and that's when I stopped holding back. If he didn't want people to know, then maybe it was time they did. I started posting again, this time, clearer, more direct. I didn't say his name yet, but I told my story. I talked about being a child, about being hurt by someone who was supposed to protect me, about the years of silence, the fear, the confusion, and with every post, it felt like I was finally breathing again, like I was taking my voice back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't protecting him, and that was terrifying, but also freeing. Then I went even further. I wrote about the moment I showed him that Bible verse, Leviticus. I remembered every detail, how scared I was, how hopeful I was, how I thought maybe that would make him stop, and how he didn't. Instead, he asked, "Who told you that?" Even then, he wasn't afraid of what he was doing. He was afraid of being exposed. So I wrote that too. Word for word, I didn't hold anything back anymore. And then, someone commented. It wasn't a stranger. It was someone who knew me. Someone who knew the truth. My best friend's mom. She wrote a long message. Supportive, loving, she believed me, publicly, and for a moment, I felt seen, like I wasn't alone anymore. Like someone was finally standing next to me, instead of asking me to stay quiet. But that moment didn't last long, because right underneath her comment was a reply from my father, and the second I read it, I felt like my heart shattered all over again. He wrote, "Flexibility is not a sign of weakness. Never become conclusive on a matter or render judgment one-sided, especially when you have not heard the other side. Anybody can make up a lying story just to incriminate others." I read it once, then again, and again, hoping I misunderstood, hoping there was some other explanation. But there wasn't. He was calling me a liar. Publicly, after everything, after the confession, after the years of silence, after everything he knew, he still chose to deny it. And that broke something in me, because it wasn't just about protecting my brother anymore. It was about protecting himself, his image, his reputation, at my expense, again. But this time, something was different. This time, I wasn't a scared 17-year-old. I wasn't trapped in that house. I wasn't dependent on them, and I didn't need their approval to speak. So instead of shutting down, I snapped. Something inside me broke, but this time, it didn't break into silence. It broke into fire. For years, I had protected them. Protected their image, protected their church, protected their lies. Even after everything, I still stayed quiet. But seeing my own father call me a liar, in public, after knowing the truth the entire time, that was it. There was nothing left to protect. So I stopped holding back. Completely. No more hints. No more vague posts. No more protecting anyone. I wrote everything. Every detail I had buried. Every memory I tried to forget. Every moment they forced me to stay silent. And this time, I said his name, my brother. I wrote it clearly, pinned it to my profile, made sure anyone who knew him knew exactly who he was. I didn't care anymore about reputation, about backlash, about what people would say. Because for the first time, I realized something. Silence never protected me, it only protected him, and I was done with that. The reaction was immediate. Some people reached out privately, offering support, telling me they believed me. Some stayed silent, and some unfollowed me, but I didn't care, because the truth was finally out, and no one could pretend anymore. But my family, they didn't apologize, they didn't try to fix anything. They doubled down. My father didn't retract his statement, didn't reach out, didn't try to understand. He just stood by it, like protecting his image was still more important than protecting his daughter. And that hurt. Even after everything, it still hurt, because a part of me will always wish I had different parents. But that part of me is smaller now, stronger, because now I see things clearly. And clarity changes everything. Time passed after that. I stopped checking their profiles, stopped looking for updates, stopped reopening wounds, and slowly, my life started to move forward again. I got a better routine, kept working, kept saving, and then, something big happened. I got my own place. For the first time in my life, I had a space that was completely mine. No fear, no past walking through the door, no memories attached to every wall. Just peace. And standing in that empty apartment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. I made it out. I built something on my own, despite everything they put me through. But with that new beginning, came something else. A question, a heavy one, because even though I had cut them off, there was still one person I couldn't forget. My disabled brother, the only innocent one in that house. The one I left behind. I thought about him every day, wondering if he was okay, if he was safe, If he was being taken care of. And then, another thought crept in, a terrifying one. What if something happened to my parents? Who would take care of him? Because there was only one other option. My other brother. The same one who destroyed my childhood. The same one my parents still protected. The same one I exposed. And the idea of him being alone with my disabled brother. It made me feel sick. I couldn't let that happen. No matter what. And that's when I realized I might have to do something I never thought I would. Go back. Not to forgive. Not to reconnect. Not to rebuild a relationship. But for one reason only. To protect him. To make sure my disabled brother never ends up in his care. Even if it means facing the people who broke me. Even if it means reopening wounds I fought so hard to close. Even if it means stepping back into a world I barely escaped from. So now, I'm standing at a crossroads. I chose myself once. I walked away. I survived. But now, I might have to walk back in. Not for them, but for him. And I don't know if I'm strong enough to do it again.